and the glass was pressure-sensitive. No punching through to get in, unless she wanted to wake up everybody in residence. Of course, no one was in residence, except for staff and security, but they could phone the police as easily as anybody else. Making sure that the pruners were secure in her pocket, she set a foot onto the narrow window ledge and boosted herself up. A few more careful footholds, and she stood on top of the kitchen roof. 15 feet up and over, the library balcony beckoned to her. Unslinging the rope she carried from over her shoulder, she pulled the pruners free and tied one side of the handle tight. On her first toss, it landed on the balcony, and she tugged on the rope to make certain the pruners were wedged tightly between the stone balustrades. Her heart hammering with the welcome rush of adrenaline, Samantha wrapped her hands into the rope, then stepped off the kitchen roof. For a moment, she hung there, swinging slowly back and forth in midair. Once she was certain the rope wouldn't give, she twined her legs into it and shimmied up to the balcony. God, that had been simple. Frequently, though, nerves were the only thing that divided the shirtless and smoking thieves who appeared on cops from the ones nobody ever caught. Nerves and a well-made piece of gardening equipment. Totally worth the 18 pounds she'd paid for it at the local nursery. Hauling herself over the railing, she detached the pruners from the rope, tucking both back where they belonged. The full-length glass doors leading into the library were closed and locked, but they didn't worry her. They were wired, of course, but not pressure-sensitive. Up this high, they would catch the evening easterly breezes and set off the alarms every 5 minutes. Nobody wanted to deal with that, even at the expense of inferior security. She unwound the length of copper wire that braceleted her left wrist, tore off 2 pieces of duct tape from the mini roll in her pocket, and carefully inserted one end under each door to intercept and bypass the electrical circuit. That done, it was simple to pick the lock and shove open the doors in near total silence. "Piece of cake," she murmured, hopping down the shallow step and into the room. The overhead lights flipped on, glaringly bright. Instinctively, Samantha dove sideways, crouching into the remains of the shadows. Shit. The servants all should have been in bed, and the owner was in London. "This is interesting," a cool male voice drawled in a cultured, slightly faded British accent. She lowered her shoulders. "What the fuck are you doing here?" she asked, stepping back into the middle of the room and trying to pretend that she hadn't nearly peed her pants. Despite her nearly foolproof, personally acquired information, obviously the owner wasn't in London. He stepped away from the light switch. "I live here. Lose your key?" For a moment, Samantha just looked at him. Tall, dark-haired and dreamy, even in jeans and a sweatshirt, Richard Addison resembled every young lady's wet dream. And that didn't take into account the fact that he was a multi-billionaire, or that he did athletic stuff like ski and play polo for recreation. "I was practicing," she retorted, blowing out her breath. "How did you know I was coming in this way?" "I've been watching you out the windows for half an hour. You're very stealthy. Now you're just being a smartass." He nodded, grinning. "Probably. And you have not been here for half an hour, because I hid out by the front gate for 40 minutes while some skank pretended to have a flat tire." "How do you know she was pretending?" "Because she had a camera with a big-ass telephoto lens in her toolbox." She cocked her head at him, assessing his expression. He was damned hard to read. He concealed his emotions for a living. "I bet you got here about 5 minutes ago, while I was climbing the kitchen wall." Rick cleared his throat. "Regardless of when I arrived, this is still the second time I've caught you breaking into one of my properties, Samantha." So she'd been right about his arrival time. Annoyed as she was at being caught, she had to admit to a certain satisfaction that at the moment this billionaire wet dream belonged to her. "I wasn't trying to steal anything this time. Don't get bent out of shape." "I'm not bent at all. An explanation, however, would be nice." With a shrug, she brushed past him, heading through the middle of the enormous library.